Last night you dreamed. Maybe you don't remember it. Maybe you do. And you wish you didn't. A face that didn't make sense. A place you've never been. A feeling that stayed with you long after you opened your eyes. But here's what no one ever asks. What did the person who came before you dream about? Not your parents? Not your grandparents? The person 50,000 years ago, sleeping on the floor of a cave, wrapped in animal skin, listening to the wind outside. What visited them in the dark? The real answer is far stranger than you'd expect, and it changes everything you think you know about your own sleeping mind. Dreams have always felt deeply personal. Yours, private, something that belongs only to your brain, your memories, your fears. But researchers who study the sleeping brain across cultures, time periods, and even species are arriving at an uncomfortable conclusion. Your dreams are not entirely yours. A significant portion of what happens inside your skull when the lights go out is ancient. It was inherited. It was shaped by pressures that stopped existing thousands of years ago, and it is still running every single night inside you. Matthew Walker, a neuroscientist at the University of California, Berkeley, and author of extensive research on sleep, describes dreaming as the brain's overnight therapy session combined with a memory consolidation engine. But that framing is very modern. Strip it back far enough, and you reach something older and stranger, a survival system that your ancestors couldn't afford to turn off. Here's what scientists believe ancient humans dreamed about most. Predators. Not metaphorical ones, real ones. The lion outside the camp, the snake in the grass, the rival from the neighboring group who had killed before and would kill again. Antti Revonsuo, a Finnish cognitive neuroscientist, proposed what he called the threat simulation theory of dreaming. His argument is this: the dream state exists, at least in part, as a rehearsal space, a training ground where the brain simulates dangerous situations so the body and mind can practice surviving them. Ancient humans who dreamed of threats and rehearsed escaping them were more prepared when the real threats arrived. The ones whose brains went quiet at night were eaten. Think about that for a moment. The nightmares that wake you up at 3 a.m., heart pounding, covered in sweat. Those might be the most ancient software your brain still runs. A rehearsal you didn't ask for. A fire drill that your genes never canceled. But it wasn't only terror. Ancient dreams were also deeply social. And this is where things get genuinely fascinating. Humans, for almost all of their existence, lived in small groups. Bands of roughly 20 to 50 people. Everyone knew everyone. The social dynamics of that group were life and death. Who trusted whom? Who owed what? Who was rising in status? Who was falling? Robin Dunbar, the evolutionary psychologist at Oxford University, has argued for decades that the human brain is fundamentally a social computing machine. It evolved not to understand physics or mathematics, but to track relationships, predict behavior, and navigate the complex web of a primate group. And the dreaming brain is perhaps the most social brain of all. Studies of modern dream content consistently find that the most common characters in dreams are people we know, familiar faces, known enemies, loved ones in unexpected roles. If you strip away the modern setting, the office, the car, the school hallway, and look only at the underlying social content of what dreams are actually about, you find something remarkably consistent across cultures. Status, threat, belonging, rejection. These are not contemporary anxieties, these are ancient ones. Your ancient ancestor lying on that cave floor very likely dreamed about the same things. The person in the group who had looked at them strangely, the hunt the next morning, and whether they would be brave enough. The leader who might turn on them, the stranger they'd seen at the river whose intentions were unclear. Social threat, social rehearsal, social repair. That last one is worth pausing on. Repair. Rosalind Cartwright, one of the most important dream researchers of the 20th century, spent decades studying the emotional function of dreams. Her findings were striking. She discovered that dreams, particularly REM dreams, which are longer and more emotionally rich, appear to function as a kind of emotional editing process. The sleeping brain revisits difficult emotional experiences, strips out some of the raw charge from them, and stores a gentler version of the memory. You wake up and the thing that felt unbearable yesterday feels slightly more survivable. Not fixed, but survivable. Ancient humans needed this desperately. Every day brought real loss, real violence, real fear. The body that could metabolize that emotional load overnight and wake up functional had a massive survival advantage over the one that lay awake, paralyzed by the previous day's trauma. Dreaming, in this sense, was not a luxury. It was maintenance. Now here is the part that tends to make people uncomfortable. The dreams you have tonight will be shaped by your ancient brain-running software that is 50,000 years old. But the content will be filtered through the lens of your modern life. And that mismatch between ancient threat detection systems and a world that looks nothing like the savannah is why your dreams are so often strange, unsettling, or emotionally disproportionate. Your brain doesn't know the difference between a social rejection email and being cast out of the tribe. Both register as threat. Both can trigger the ancient rehearsal engine. A dream about showing up to a meeting unprepared isn't so different, neurologically, from a dream about facing a predator without a weapon. The system is the same. Only the scenery has changed, and there is something even older underneath all of this. Across all cultures on Earth, researchers studying dream content have found a small set of universal themes: flying, falling, being chased, teeth falling out, being naked in public, arriving somewhere and not being prepared, finding a room you didn't know existed. These themes appear in ancient texts. They appear in the dreams reported by indigenous peoples with no exposure to Western culture. They appear in the dream journals of medieval monks and in the sleep studies of contemporary undergraduates. They are not random. They are the signature of a shared evolutionary inheritance. Flying may reflect the ancient mammalian startle and escape reflex. Falling may map onto the arboreal fears of the primates you descended from, the very real consequence of losing your grip in the trees. Being chased maps directly onto Revonsuo's threat simulation. Being unprepared maps onto social status anxiety. These are not cultural metaphors. They are echoes, old ones. For most of human history, people took their dreams profoundly seriously. Not as entertainment, not as noise, as information. The Mesopotamians kept dream journals. Ancient Egyptians built structures specifically for dream incubation, places where you could sleep in sacred spaces and receive guidance from the dreaming mind. Indigenous cultures from the Amazon to the Australian outback developed elaborate systems for interpreting and acting on dream content. Modern science has largely dismissed this as superstition, and yet, the more researchers actually study the dreaming brain, the more they find that these ancient cultures may have been responding, imperfectly but sincerely, to something real. The dreaming mind does process emotion. It does simulate social scenarios. It does rehearse threats. It does integrate memory in ways that the waking mind cannot. They weren't wrong that something important was happening. They were just working without the tools to understand what. So what does that mean for you, lying in your bed tonight, about to close your eyes? It means the mind that goes to sleep is not just yours. It is borrowed. It carries tools your ancestors needed and you don't fully understand. It runs drills for threats that may not exist in your world, but were once the only thing standing between your lineage and extinction. It replays your social world, edits your pain, and rehearses your fears. Not to torture you, but to prepare you. Ancient humans dreamed about predators and rivals and belonging and loss and the darkness just outside the firelight. Tonight, when the lights go out and the dream begins, so will you.